So from our studios here at number 5 Oula Hansen Lane, this is a roundtable discussion labeled John Mahama 2.0, a thematic assessment of the first year of the second term. My name is Bernard Ave, and I'm here to moderate a live conversation involving 6 thematic areas: economy, education, environment, agriculture, good governance, and infrastructure. It's to get a sense of how well this president is doing before a live audience of students from Unimac here in Accra and the academic city also in Accra. It's an interactive program which is live on ChannelOne television and also on 97.3 City FM. If you're listening on radio, please feel free to send us your comments on 1 year of John Mahama on the WhatsApp number 054 998 6996. There's also a WhatsApp number on the television screen for those of you who are watching us. We're live also on YouTube and other social media platforms. So when we come back, we'll be bringing you the intros of our 6 thematic area experts who we have carefully selected to lead discussions on this very important assessment. Stay with us. Yes, indeed. We are live here in Accra, bringing you a roundtable discussion assessing 1 year of the John Mahama presidency. We call it Mahama 2.0. This is the second iteration. For those of you who don't know, John Mahama is in his second term, in a sense, because his first presidency, indeed, was in 2012 to 2016. And then, of course, he's back in 2024 with his 25 inauguration. This week is 1 year and a week of his being president for his second and final term. We've selected 6 experts from 6 key thematic areas to lead an analysis of his performance in front of a live student audience who will be joining us with their questions later on. For the economic thematic area, our expert is Professor William Baah Boateng. Let's take his intro.
Professor William Baah Boateng is a highly respected Ghanaian economist with over 25 years of experience in teaching, research, and public policy. He is a senior faculty member of the University of Ghana and is widely recognized in Ghana and across Africa for his work in labor economics, development policy, and institutional reform. He holds a PhD in economics from the University of Ghana and has received advanced training at Harvard University. Professor Baah Boateng made history as the first full professor in the University of Ghana's Department of Economics in 50 years and previously served 2 terms as head of department. Professor Baah Boateng is currently Vice Chancellor of Methodist University, Ghana.
So we welcome Prof. Baah Boateng, who I'm happy to say was my lecturer many years ago. He keeps reminding me that my first class is provisional. I don't know how long that's going to be. Prof, it's good to have you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Congrats on your appointment.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So next on our list is another professor in whom I'm well pleased. He is in charge of our agric thematic area, Professor Roger Canton-Lurie.
Professor Roger Canton is a respected agricultural scientist and former chief research scientist with the Savannah Agricultural Research Institute, part of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research in Ghana. He is widely recognized for his expertise in agriculture, food security, and agribusiness development. He has been active in public advocacy on agriculture policies, consistently calling for stronger national support for value-added agriculture, food processing, and innovation to improve productivity and rural livelihoods. His work emphasizes practical solutions to reduce post-harvest losses, improve financing and processing infrastructure, and empower farmers.
Professor Roger Canton-Lurie is our thematic area expert for agriculture. Prof, great to have you. Thanks for joining us. Good morning. It is my pleasure. Our next expert is covering the rubric of environment. One of the rising stars within the environmental sciences, Dr. Ekuya Odum.
He's an accomplished environmental scientist with over a decade of professional experience in climate change adaptation, environmental assessment, natural resource management, and sustainability advisory services in Ghana and across Africa. She holds a doctorate in environmental science from the University of Ghana with advanced academic training in climate change and sustainable development. Dr. Odum currently serves as a research officer at the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, where she leads thematic research on climate risk pathways and urban governance under the Cascade Project.
So, for the first time on Channel One and CTFM, we're happy to bring to you Dr. Ikwe Odum. Really a pleasure to have you. You come highly recommended. Thanks for joining us, Doc.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. We're also continuing with our introductions. Next is the governance and anti-corruption area, and she's not a stranger at all. She is in the person of Mary Ada.
Mrs. Mary Awilana Ada is an accomplished governance and anti-corruption professional and the Executive Director of Ghana Integrity Initiative, the national chapter of Transparency International. She brings over a decade of experience in promoting transparency, accountability, and good governance in Ghana. Mrs. Ada joined the Ghana Integrity Initiative in 2009 and progressed through key leadership roles including Senior Program and Research Officer, Program Manager, Acting Executive Director, and ultimately Executive Director in 2023. She has led the design and implementation of major governance and anti-corruption programs, overseeing strategy, advocacy, and institutional growth.
So we bring back again Mary Ada, who together with Professor Canton were on our 120-day assessment of the Mahama administration. So Mary, welcome back. Thank you so much. It's good to have you. Amazing. The next thematic area is one that a lot of our radio listeners will be interested in. We call it roads and infrastructure. More emphasis on infrastructure. David Ofosu-Dorte is our thematic area lead for that sector.
David Ofosu-Dorte is the senior partner of AB & David Africa, a Pan-Africa business law firm with offices in 5 countries and a network of firms in a total of 24 African countries. His experience cuts across construction projects, project finance, the power sector, and public-private partnerships. He has played lead advisory roles in numerous infrastructure transactions and has been described as highly regarded and a highly esteemed figure for his diverse commercial practice as well as his experience in finance matters. In addition to law, David also holds master's degrees in public administration and in applied business research and is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Logistics and Transport.
Always a pleasure. David, thank you so much. And David will be hosting Crystal Ball Africa on the 22nd day of January. It's a Pan-African conference that looks into the year. It's a very exciting program that we are part of as 97.3 CDFM. Last but not least is our friend from the educational sector, Mr. Kofi Asare.
Kofi Asare is the Executive Director of EduWatch with over 20 years of experience supporting education and public sector institutions in Ghana. He has worked closely with schools, communities, government agencies, and international organizations to strengthen education systems and improve learning outcomes. He has played key leadership and advisory roles in Ghana's education sector, including chairing the Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition, serving on ministerial advisory and technical committees, and contributing to the development of Ghana's education strategic plans. He also worked for several years as a rapporteur for the Ministry of Education and has developed training manuals for the Ghana Education Service.
Wow. Thank you very much, Kofi Asare. He's become the leading voice on education advocacy in the country, and we're very happy to have him. I'd like to welcome all my panel members. Thank you very much for being here. This is the roundtable discussion, a thematic assessment of 1 year of the Mahama presidency. We call it Mahama 2.0. The program is in 3 parts. Part 1, I'm going to give each of the experts a few minutes to basically tell us their own assessment of the 1 year of the Mahama government from the thematic area we've given them. It's a complex issue, so you can design the methodology you will use. Some will say fair, pass, some will give rankings, will not restrict you at all. But after that, we are doing a panel discussion where we would ask specific questions around some of the things you would have said to us. But we're lucky to have some very bright students from Unimac, used to be called GIJ. If they are here, let them give me an applause. And also from the academic city, who will be sharing their views on some of the points raised here, and also asking questions. If they also want to assess the government, why not? They have a right to speak as well. So students, please get ready to be involved in the third part of the program. And I'll let Umaru Sanda Amadu, my colleague, moderate that segment for me. Umaru Sanda, are you here? Let's put our hands together for Umaru Sanda Amadu. Umaru Sanda hosts Face-to-Face on ChannelOne Television and Eyewitness News on 97.3 CDFM. So I think we need to start with the economy because it appears to be at the basis of everything. Partly because the thematic area expert was my lecturer for 4 years, and therefore I want to appease him. I'd like to invite Professor Baah Boateng to take us through quickly his own assessment from an economic perspective of the first year of the Mahama government. Prof, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Ben, and good morning to the audience and good morning to viewers and listeners all over the world. So my assessment is going to be based on what the government set out to do in its own budget at the beginning of its term. And the budget was read somewhere in March. I remember March 11th. So I will give an intro by saying that managing an economy is like a doctor managing the health of an individual. And I like to use this analogy because we are all human beings and we fall sick and we go to the hospital. So we have doctors who will look at us. And when the government took over, one major problem that confronted the government was the challenge of macro stability. And therefore, the assessment of this government, 1 year, will focus more on that. So if you look at macro stability, we are talking about inflation. And let me say that normally when we are assessing the government or an economy, we tend to focus more on exchange rate. But if you take the objectives of every macro economics, there are 4 objectives. The first one is economic growth. The second one is price stability, that is domestic price stability. The third one is desired employment. So we try to bring unemployment so low. And the fourth one is balance of payment. So if you look at Ghana, and I start my analysis, the data from January 2016, and you realize that NDC at that time had a challenge of macro stability. Inflation went to 15% at the time. If you remember in 2000, during the election which brought MPP to power, inflation went up to somewhere 50 or thereabout. If you look at 2008, we had the same thing. So macro stability happens to be the driver of decision of voters. So we ended the year in 2024 with inflation around 23%. And then we had our growth, which was also around 5% or thereabout. Exchange rate was a problem because exchange rate drives inflation. So everybody was talking about the exchange rate instability, volatility, and so on. And let me also say this in my analysis, that we are always quick to say the exchange rate is so high. It's 14, it's 11, it's 10. In economic analysis, exchange rate, the level of the exchange rate is not the most important thing. But the most important thing is the fluctuation. Because currently the exchange rate is about 10 to $1. But if you go back and you add 10, you add 4 zeros, then it's 100,000 to $1. So it is not about what amount do we use to exchange for $1, but the most important thing is the fluctuation. So If my first graph, if it were shown, you realize that over the past few years after the COVID, especially from 2022, inflation went up. It went up to about 54% before coming down.
So that would be the red
That would be the red. So the red one
line
shows inflation.
Okay.
So from January 2016, you see some fluctuation, but it wasn't that much. But we hit the wall somewhere in 2000, and we all know what happened. So we are not going to go back there. But to see whether exchange rate also influences inflation, the green one also shows you the change in exchange rate. And I'm using the price quotation, how we measure our exchange rate. And you can see that when inflation started moving up, you see how the exchange rate was behaving. That's the green one. It goes up and down and so on.
So the green is the percentage
change.
So the volatility is in how up and down it goes.
Up and down it goes.
Related
but of course,
to the
blue
red line.
one is the level. The blue one is the level. So we went up and then came down, went up, came down, and now we are at 10.
So if I get you right, you're saying most people focus on the level of the blue,
Yes.
that is 16 or 10.
Yes.
But the important thing is to look at whether the green line is flat or stable.
Exactly.
So the most important factor is the green line.
It's the green line.
Not the blue line.
Not the blue line.
Thank you.
So not the level. So when you are making it go up or down, appreciation or depreciation is not good for any economy. But the stability or the movement of the rate is the most important part of it for the economy.
Thank you.
And when we go to the next level, it tells you about economic growth, and it is also about how the economy had fared. And growth has also been erratic, and we've not been able to have consistent growth. And if you look at it from 2022 quarter 1 to 2025 quarter 3, you see we move up, we come down, we move up, we come down. And if we have this kind of instability, it's not good for any economy. And you go to the third one, that also gives you an idea about what all of us are happy about. If you have a job and you can put your hand on regular salary, you are happy. And that is employment. And we can also look at that by looking at the level of unemployment. And we have been having unemployment rate hovering around the teens. And it is around the 13, 14, and so on. So what you have there is an average unemployment rate for the 3 years. So you have the unemployment rate for everybody 15 and above, and that was 14.6%, and this is average, because this data comes from quarterly data, and I have done the average so that it will make the graph look simpler. And youth unemployment rate, we ended at 32%. That's the youth between 15 and 24. So if at the time this is where we were, it means we have to also look at unemployment as well. And that influenced what the government wanted to do when it took over. And in the budget, if you look at the next slide.
So before that, if I get you right, the blue chart is more important as youth. No, go back to, stay there, please don't move, stay there. Please stay on the unemployment slide. I just want to understand something. You're saying the youth unemployment is the issue, the fact that it's higher than the other two, the 15 to 24.
Yeah. So we have two types of youth definition.
All right.
So Ghana, we adopt the AU definition, which is 15 to 35.
Good. That's the purple one.
But the purple one.
All right.
And then the UN has its own definition of youth. That is 15 to 24.
Good.
And then we have everybody who is eligible to work, that is 15 and above.
Good.
So the green one is 15 and above, everybody. And that we ended the year maybe averagely around 12.8%.
Which means that for the 15 to 24, it's gone up in 2025.
Yes, and I will explain. In my analysis, I will explain what government has done, and therefore government has done well, but who is benefiting more.
Can we go to the next slide then?
The next slide is very important. So it tells you what government sought to do when it took over. Government main concern, and if you look at the theme for the budget, it's a resetting for growth, jobs, and economic transformation. To be able to transform the economy, you need to have macro stability. If you want somebody to work for you, the person should have a stable mind to be able to work for you. So stability is very important. So the first year of government, you say prioritize macro stability. One, government wanted to end the year of inflation at 11.9%, and then economic growth, government wanted to grow the economy by 4%. But these are the indicators, but you also need to do something behind the scene to be able to achieve that. And that comes to the reserve and also the fiscal. So government also wanted to end the year primary balance on commitment basis at 1%, and also to have international reserve that will cover only 3 months of import cover. So at least these are the drivers, something that government was going to do to be able to stabilize the economy and then achieve what it desired to do. There are other things that the government to do at the ministerial level and so on, but these are the major ones. So based on this, let's see what government was able to achieve last year. And I will start with inflation. Government wanted to end the year at 11.9%, but government ended the year at 5.4%. So government overperformed based on its own target. We ended the year at 23.8% inflation, and government said I was going to bring it down to 11%. I think you have to go to the previous slide. So government overachieved that. And because inflation has come down, you also realize that interest rate has also followed suit. So interest rate, interbank interest rate in 2024 was 27%, but now it's about 15.7%. So when the economy is stable, when inflation is dropping, you should expect that interest rate will also fall, even though it is not falling the way our prices are falling. So you may have a certain markup. That is why we have that there. And then we also have the exchange rate, which also drives inflation. So we have 14.7% in December 2024, and it's now and it's 10.45% December 2025. So which means that we've had some kind of appreciation, but it is not the appreciation that matters. I am on record to say that at 14.7, we could have still arrived at 10.45% gradually. If you had done that gradually, and you all realize that between April and May, exchange rate dropped from 14% to 10%, the 14 cedis to 10. And that sharp appreciation caused some kind of turbulence in the system. Revenue revenue dropped. You have remittances dropping. You have exports complaining. And of course, all of us jubilated because importers were able to bring down prices. And if it trickles down, then all of us are happy. But within it, there were some challenges. And the good thing about what government did when revenue dropped, if you look at the provisional outturn of Minister of Finance own data, when revenue dropped, government also dropped its expenditure. And we always say that you must always cut your coat according to your size. When government realized that revenue has come down, government also made sure that they will also drop expenditure so that expenditure moves in line with revenue, so you don't cause any challenge. That is something that actually came up. So the next slide gives you why the declining inflation. And in our discussion, attribution has been a challenge, and it has been influenced by politics. But since I'm not a politician, I want to go into it based on the economics. So if you look at the declining inflation, it came from the steady appreciation and subsequent stability. When it dropped from 14 down there, I think we've been hovering between 10 and 12, which for me is too wide. I am expecting that it should be within 5%. That is one. The second one is fiscal discipline. Government also did very well. Fiscal side very well, and they even as at October, they have overachieved what they set out to do. So for instance, primary surplus was 1.6% at the end of October, as against 1% target. And overall deficit has gotten to 1.5% as against 3.2% target. So it means that the fiscal is also doing well in terms of discipline. And we also have improved food production. I think we all know what happened. City FM spoke about the glut. And it means that food came up, and therefore food prices also went down. And if you look at inflation trajectory, food prices have been driving inflation down, which was very good. But I can't move without talking about cedi depreciation and appreciation. What caused the appreciation? One of them is favorable gold and cocoa prices. I think the year we've enjoyed that. And secondly, government has also ensured with Bank of Ghana to ensure significant accumulation of reserves. So if you have reserves, anytime you have a challenge, you should be able to manage. And let me also make this point. Many people complain that central bank is intervention and so on. When we take exchange rate management, there are 8 different regimes. There's one extreme, which is fixed exchange rate, the pegged. Then one which is flexible. In between, you have managed one. And what we are implementing is what we call managed floating. So the central bank will come in when the need arises. Central bank cannot say the markets to determine everything. So the role of the central bank in managing the exchange rate is very, very important. So how they manage it is what we can talk about. So we can't say they are intervening. No, that is the regime that we are implementing. Fiscal discipline also helped in the exchange rate stability and also appreciation, and then effective coordination between the fiscal and monetary authorities. This is the first time that I've seen that coordination, because if the fiscal and monetary don't come together, then we will have a challenge. And there's one thing that central bank has done, it looks quiet, because the city has stabilized. We don't see what the central bank has done. Central bank is doing some kind of regulation, and it is something that many of us have been speaking about. We don't buy goods and services in dollars or euros. We use cedis. So if you go to the bank to withdraw dollars, you have to show why you are withdrawing dollars. If you are traveling, that is fine. But you can't just go to the bank, walk in and withdraw dollars and put it in your pocket and go and exchange. It is something that the central bank has done quietly, and it has helped, but many people don't know. 2, you can't also just go to the bank and say, I have $2 million, I'm going to deposit. You should be able to tell where you got the $2 million. If indeed it is export proceeds, it must come through the banking system. We all know that if you travel and you are coming with foreign exchange, you need to declare if it is more than 10,000. So if you have that amount, you should be able to tell us where you got the money from. This is what we've not been doing over the years, and I'm happy that we've been able to establish. So,
for sake of time, I'll ask you to touch on unemployment and then go to your conclusions. I think public debt is big. I don't want you to deal with that. So just do briefly on, because unemployment is a very key issue, which is, so please move to the next slide.
Yes.
The next slide, please. Unemployment, and then you give us your conclusion remarks. Yes. We are out of.
Okay, thank you very much. And so one issue that we all spoke about is high unemployment, youth unemployment, and so on. So in 2025, thanks to NASA's Card Service, we have data up to the 3rd quarter of last year. And if you look at the data and you analyze it, about 1.08 million employment were created. 1.08 million employment, you can call it jobs, were created within that period. At the same time, unemployment also inched up a bit in terms of absolute numbers by 22,900, about 23,000. So you say that, but employment is increasing, unemployment is increasing. What it tells you is that, yes, we're able to create about 1.1 million jobs, but it was not enough to be able to absorb all the people in the labor market. Significant it was, but at least it could have been better. But $1.1 million, if we are able to consistently do that, that is good. And most of them came from the informal side of it. So to be able to know whether we did well, we have to look at what we call the absorption rate, how the economy has been able to absorb in terms of employment. So in 2024, the absorption rate was 61%. Now it went to 65%. So it means that government did well in terms of employment generation. So then it should reflect on unemployment. So you see that unemployment also slowed down. Now 13.7%, the average in 2005 for 3 quarters is 12.8%. So 15 and above, everybody, unemployment rate on average over the year 12.8%, which is quite good. But if you look at it from the youth side, especially youth between 15 and 24, the unemployment rate inched a bit, 31.4% to 2.5%. What this tells you is that even though employment were created, but it benefited the adults. It didn't benefit young people between 15 and 24. So that gives you an idea as to how government should position itself when employment are being created. Government must be deliberate, target the young people so that they can also benefit. And they are not able to benefit as much as the adults because they are, the young people between 15 and 24, they are new labor market entrants. They have just finished SSS or finished the university and they are entering the labor market. They don't have that kind of experience. They don't have so many things. So when it comes to absorbing it, using the market forces, they are going to suffer. So government should target it. In as much as some jobs were created over the year, government must be intentional.
So I'm going to give you a minute to give me your 5 bullet point conclusions, just to summarize what you've said so far.
So what I have summarized is that the last year, 2025, have been good in terms of macro stability. There's no question about that. But we shouldn't jubilate. We shouldn't jubilate because managing an economy is like managing the health of individual. I equate inflation to hypertension, and then I equate unemployment to diabetes. These two move together. And if you are hypertensive or you are diabetic, you are supposed to take medication. And the medication must be consistent. So macro stability is not an end in itself. Government must continue to be disciplined in terms of fiscal. The Bank of Ghana must continue to do what it's doing right, and what it didn't get right is to refine it so that we will continue to enjoy the stability. And long stability will be able to facilitate economic transformation.
Wow. Professor William Baah Boateng is the Vice Chancellor of the Methodist University Ghana, and it's very clear he understands and knows his onions. So stability has been achieved. We shouldn't rejoice yet. Inflation is like hypertension. Diabetes is like what? Unemployment. Let's not get carried away. This is John Mahama 2.0, an assessment of 1 year of the Mahama presidency from 6 thematic areas. We've given over 17 minutes, almost 20 minutes to the first speaker. I'm not sure the others will need that amount of time because they didn't bring any graphs at all. So what I want to do is to deal with the 2 economic sectors because agriculture and infrastructure derive from the economy. After that, I will deal with the social sectors of education and environment, and I'll end with governance because governance underlines everything. So this is the plan I have. So I don't know whether, David, you want to go next because you are dealing with infrastructure, which is what a lot of people call for. It's one of the tangible evidences that a government is performing well. So, David, thank you for joining us. And what are your own reflections